about
Mm-hmm.
what the Democrats are going to go forward. I just remembered this because I was driving today, and or the other day. I did a lot of driving this weekend, and I was thinking about it, and I have a serious fear of what the Democrats are going to do. So I'm not using this as a way to disparage anyone or anything like that. I'm just talking about the policy perception, the optics. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
major cities, people usually don't live in the downtown or even subsequent areas. That's not where most people live. They usually live outside of the cities and they commute into the cities. There's a lot of major cities that are like this, right? Those downtown big major areas. And in those big major areas, predominantly are homelessness, right? And with that comes a perception of crime, comes a perception of drug use, comes a perception of a lot of things. And people look at that and they go, okay, well, maybe there's some truth. Maybe there's some truth to the Democrats, what the Republicans say about the Democrats. And so optically, people look at that and they go, okay, maybe there's some truth to that. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And that can be reinforced by other things going wrong in the country, right? How
Mm-hmm.
people perceive things to be. And so Republicans are very easily able to draw this narrative between failed Democratic policies in urban areas, despite the fact that I spent a lot of time in Republican areas and they're fucking poor. They're unbelievably poor. And not only that, it's trashy. I don't know if you guys are ever spending time in the boonies. It's trashy. But they create this perception. Okay. And the problem is that optically, there's not a lot for the Democrats to point to, right? To go, that's our policy, right? And the things that there are is not like things that have that good optics things. If you're talking, so for instance, if you're talking about Joe Biden and what he got done, he got the CHIPS Act done. That's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. Is probably one of the most important pieces of legislation in like the last 50 years when it comes to tech. It's incredibly important. Certainly going to be instrumental in the next 50 years. It's an insanely important piece of legislation. Nobody can see it. Anybody here see the CHIPS Act?
Nope.
Anybody here see any aspect of the CHIPS Act when they walk out their door? No. But if you go into these urban areas, you see homelessness, right? Even though this isn't a product of Democratic policies, this is just a product of there being money in these areas. That's a fact. There's money in Democratic areas that is not there in rural areas. And there's more sympathy, there's more programs, there's more help. Cue my logic here. I have a serious fear that because of people on the left that advocated against it, advocated for perfection, right, from the Democrats. If I'm a Democratic analyst right now, right, and I'm looking at this going, I have two groups of people. I have people that have either advocated not to vote for me or stated their indifference, right? I would say people like Hassan Piker's in this. He was just indifferent. Well, if you want to vote, vote. If you don't, if you don't. Or I have a group of people in the middle that are going to vote for me, right? Because most people in the middle don't care. So who am I going to target? Am I going to target the left wing group who is like, okay, the nuances of the housing crisis, the nuance of homelessness is extensive. The solution for it is extensive, right? Understanding it takes a lot. It's not an easy thing to explain to a lot of people how homelessness works and how we're going to solve it from a leftist perspective. It's a very difficult concept to understand. How we're going to fund it, how we're going to the root causes of it, how we're going to stem it in the future, how we're going to all sorts of things. That's juxtaposed to the Republican position. And the Republican position is simple. Lock them up.
Mm-hmm.
So my fear going into this, not what I'm advocating for, but my fear is if Democrats, and here's the thing, Democrats, because of bureaucracy, because no one really wants to, grab anyone or kick anyone in the balls, they're not able to just make this happen, right? And a lot of this is contingent on Republican policies. But if you're a Democratic strategist, or not even that, if you're just like, who am I going to appeal to? Okay, well, we'll pick up parts of the Republican strategy on homelessness and crime. That way we can undercut them in that degree, right? We'll put a fucking bow tie on it. We'll make it a little bit more appealing so that the left isn't too mad, but we'll do what they did, or to a degree. And we saw a very similar thing like this happen in the 90s, where Democrats are like, we want to go away from this tough on crime thing because it's not working. And Republicans were like, give us more harsh crimes. And so you end up with a system that's like either really bad or bad. And I think that's the problem, is a lot of these things that they can like let go of because they don't need that voting base, they might. And that's a big concern for me, that they might do things like go back to the ideas of the Democrats in the early 90s when it comes to crime. That they might go back to the ideas of the early Democrats when it comes to things like the trans community and treating them like they did the LGBTQ community in the 90s with Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Like, these things concern me. And it's made possible not by awful, horrible Democrats, but by apathy on the left. By them refusing to engage in meaningful ways. Be like, okay, we'll have this battle after we win an election. I don't know why everybody's doing. It's just like the most defeatist attitude. Well, if we're not getting everything, I'm out. And it's all that this has done, ironically enough, for people that are on the left that are in that camp, is literally remove themselves from the conversation.
Yep.
It's like when I talked about Gaza, right, and Palestine. Most older Americans support Israel. Most younger Americans support Palestine. If you're Joe Biden and you're looking at this being like, who do I most need to bring into contention here? Who do I most need to look at, right? It's older people. They vote. Who do I most need to make my point known to? Who do I most need to follow when it comes to them? Even though it may not be that, who do I need to have in the back of my mind every time I go to write or every time I go to talk about this? Because if the younger generation showed up to vote, they wouldn't be talking to boomers. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't see the ads. You wouldn't see the ads on the television. You'd see them in your social media feeds. You'd see them, in email. Like, you'd see them everywhere. Everywhere the boomers are.
All over your algorithm. There would be no effort to withhold the vote in Michigan and critical swing states. They already have them.
So, I'm going to be real. I'm fundamentally concerned that the Democrats are going to take a step back here and do this from the perspective of, oh, we need to undercut the Republicans on things that they're stronger on. Not because they're right, but because it's easier. We'll use, like if you have like 10 policies across the board, okay, let's kind of mirror Republicans on 7 of them, so we can pick 3 policies to go after. So we can back burner that, it's a wash, and we'll go on to the next one. And that concerns me. I'm very concerned the Democrats are going to do that, especially their propensity to mess everything up.
Yep.
We'll see. I am concerned because of what I said about earlier, which was fascist creep. I'm concerned, right? When we were talking about fascist creep, this drift towards the right, thinking that they can get benefit, that Democrats are going to absolve these talking points, right? Because it's going to give them political capital in the future. So